What's up, everybody? Welcome to Take No Offense. A couple of friends who grew up together in Pennsylvania. Now we live on opposite sides of the country. So, this is our chance to get together once a week to share our thoughts on politics, sports, movies, and TV. I'm Eric Messersmith in the Los Angeles area. Brian Johnson is in suburban Washington, D.C. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, buddy. The boys are back in town would be the music that would be playing in the background if we had the licensing to it.
Yes, we were out for a couple of weeks. I went on vacation, sort of, kind of. You went on vacation, and now we're back. And
It's
here
good to
we
be back.
are. And nothing happened while we were gone. I kid,
Nothing
I
ever
kid.
does. Nothing
We
ever
had
does.
we had a few things. The federal government's taken over apparently the policing and where you live in the District of Columbia. We have redistricting fights all across the nation now. We talked a little bit about that on the show before we took our little break. But the big news is the Russia-Ukraine situation. So Putin came to America, met in Alaska with Trump. Oh, there's my dog, Ned
Hi,
Stark,
Netter.
appearance on the show. So he meets with Putin on Friday in Alaska. Nothing really tangible comes out, except maybe Putin is possibly going to agree to some security guarantees. Then he meets with Zelensky Monday, yesterday, and as well as most of the major European leaders, the presidents of France and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Germany, among others. And we don't really know if anything tangible came out of that either. Apparently Trump has talked to Putin and says he's trying to set up a meeting between Putin and Zelensky. Trump is going forward as if that's going to happen. The Kremlin has come out and not really said no, but not really said yes either. So I don't know. All these meetings seem to be going well. Like the Zelensky Trump thing in the Oval Office was great. Big improvement over February.
The bar was
Versus
low.
the bar was low, but there was no berating. It was nice to see all of those NATO and European leaders at the White House. It was nice to see everybody seemingly on the same page and lining up together to try to get some security guarantees for Ukraine. But I don't know. I just still find it hard to believe that Vladimir Putin is at the end of the day going to make the concessions that would be necessary for a peace deal. I don't know. Am I too pessimistic?
I don't think you're too pessimistic. I mean, the title of the Zoom meeting I sent you was Important People Meet, Children Continue to Die. Like nothing happened. There was no real movement. The war in Ukraine continues on until the screws are really put to Russia. This is I don't know why Putin would stop now. He's going to be in a much worse position, in my opinion, economically certainly, than when he started this invasion. I know that's a controversial take from some sides, but I think it's pretty clear that Russia invaded Ukraine. Um, from this whole thing, the item that I found the most interesting was Melania Trump's penned letter that got a lot of play that she wrote to Vladimir Putin. And I got to say, just politics aside, I really liked it a lot. Um,
And for
I don't
those
know
who
what
aren't
you made
familiar,
of
what
it.
was the general gist of that letter?
Well, I mean, the general gist of the letter was like, you're a very important man who does important things, who could change the world for the better if you chose to. And it was about the impact that it has on families and children in both Ukraine and Russia, losing their parents and some of them losing their lives. Dude, I really liked it a lot. I mean, I don't know if I'm just, too emotional. I think she was trying to flatter him and appeal to his emotional side. Do I think it will work or be effective? Who knows? But I thought it was a really nice thing that she wrote.
It was nice, but I don't think Putin gives a damn
No,
about
I mean he's a psycho. So
he
it's
does.
really hard.
I feel
It's
like
really
part
tough.
of part of the problem that I have with the way Trump sees the world and sees specifically Putin in the Ukraine conflict isn't so much that he invited Putin to America. That's fine. It isn't like the logistics and the red carpet. I mean,
But was it
whatever.
America really? I mean, it was
Well, yeah,
Alaska. So
Alaska, sort of, kind of. I, I mean, I don't know. Sarah Palin said, remember, you could see Alaska from her backyard when she was the governor.
one of our
Although
great
Alaska, and
politicians.
she got a lot of shit for that, but I think I know what she like. Alaska and Russia are really, really close. I mean, it wasn't.
No, but it's just a fun thing
It was a
now.
funny thing she
Yeah.
said. In fact, I think at one time there was a land bridge and that people walked back and forth many moons ago. Anywho, I think trying for peace is fine. but I just sense, and the thing that summed it up for me, I sense a naivete that remains with Trump that should not be there for any US president, for anyone who's seen how Vladimir Putin works, but certainly for a man now who is in his fifth year in the presidency and in between those first four
Feels like
years.
his 12th or 13th
Right. He
year,
was
but
running for president for 4 years. So, and the thing that summed it up to me when I'm talking about was actually a hot mic comment. So they had at the White House all the leaders around the table. They brought the media in. They all made statements, and then the media was ushered out so they could do the actual talks in terms of the European leaders. And before the media left, the mic picked up Trump saying to Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, saying, I'm paraphrasing here, but this is basically the gist. I think Putin wants to make a deal for me, as crazy as that sounds. And I believe that Trump does believe that. I believe he
right.
thinks he has a special relationship with Putin. He's right. It does
I
sound
love hot
crazy.
mics. They're the best.
He's right that it sounds crazy because it
It
is.
is.
And it's what Putin wants him to believe. Like,
Exactly.
if you watch that summit, what did Vladimir Putin say in his brief remarks in Alaska? A bunch of meaningless
Yeah.
propaganda,
Yeah.
some of his rewriting of history of
Mhm.
talking about quote unquote root causes of Ukraine, of the war, which is basically, I don't want Ukraine to exist as a sovereign country. But a couple of things he said stuck out to me. He said this war would have never happened if it weren't for Donald Trump, if Donald Trump were president. And that is exact, like Putin knows
He's a smart man.
how to manipulate Trump. And it took me back to the line in the debate, the one debate we saw with Kamala Harris and Trump, which I thought was Harris's best moment of that
It
debate. And
was.
in a debate, I think she clearly won when she basically eviscerated Trump on Putin and Russia and said, you won't be able to negotiate with this guy because, again, I'm paraphrasing, he will, you are so susceptible to flattery and you don't understand essentially what he's doing, which is he is flattering you. Like, it's such an easy throwaway thing for Putin to say. This would have never happened if you were president, not Joe Biden. I mean,
Right.
we don't, first of all, there's
Hypothetically.
no way of ever knowing that.
Right.
But secondly, Putin knows why does he say that? He says it the same reason he says he thinks Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize, because he understands how to manipulate Trump. Putin is a master at this. He's a KGB guy. Not that he needs to be
Right.
to understand Trump, but certainly he knows how to do this. And by the way, to be fair to Trump, it isn't just Trump that Putin has manipulated over the years. I saw a great clip the other day from the New York Times editorial board where they put out clips of American presidents and other European leaders over the years, going back to George W. Bush, running all the way through Tony Blair, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, basically everybody other than Biden, really, saying nice things about Putin, being fooled by Putin. You remember the famous quote with Trump, I looked, or with George W. Bush, he's a good man. I've looked into his soul. I mean, just like Putin has been fooling American and Western presidents and prime ministers now for 2+ decades, saying whatever he needs to say and then doing
Doing whatever
whatever
he
he
needs.
wants to
Well,
do.
I mean, that's one of the great tricks in life, right? Like, whether it's
Yes.
at your workplace or anywhere else with a spouse, for example, is you just tell them what they want to hear and do whatever you
Wow.
want.
This is marriage counseling from Brian Johnson.
Well,
So if we got Trish on here, your lovely wife, do you think she would agree that that is? Do you think, first of all, do you think she would say that
no,
you
I
do
think she does
that?
that to me.
Oh, right, right. I get
I
what
think
you're
it goes the
saying.
other way. I
I
mean, what are
hear
you
you.
talking about? In our relationship, trust me, Trisha is Putin and I'm Trump. Like
You're
that's how
Trump.
this relationship works.
So as naive as it was for George W. Bush and Tony Blair, like Putin was new on the scene then. And maybe you could say the Cold War is over. Russia had, at least in those early years after the Cold War, begin to flirt with a real democracy. They had a real presidential election. So maybe you could say, look, this is kind of a fresh start. It's worth giving this guy the benefit of the doubt. Let's try to make it work. That was 2 decades ago. Like, the cat is out of the bag. We know what this man is and what he wants and what he responds to. And he doesn't give a damn about what Trump thinks is a quote unquote special relationship. He's going to do it for me. Like as if Putin is going to sacrifice the best interests of Russia just to appease Donald Trump. I mean, it is absolutely ludicrous on its
Well,
face.
that's an interesting statement, though. What's in the best interest of Russia? I mean, really, I mean, dude, it's what's in the best interest of him. I don't know if it's in the best interest of Russia.
Well,
I
he
mean, if you
sees it as,
really,
I think he sees it as one and the same.
that's,
I agree with you that it might not be, but I'm in Putin's mind. I think he sees his
okay.
own personal
All
interest
right.
as
I see what you're
aligned
saying
with
now.
the
I
Russian
just, yeah,
Empire.
yeah, I got you.
But I think what he does understand, Putin, is strength and power. And as you said, and I think it's so clear to everybody, and I think it's becoming clearer to Trump, I will say that, and the people around him, is Putin will only move if he is forced.
Oh,
And
yes.
finally, Trump, what got us to this point where they actually had this meeting where apparently they made some minuscule progress is Trump put a deadline out there and said 2 weeks, originally said 50 days, but then he changed that and said 2 weeks or I'm going to impose really heavy secondary sanctions and we're going to really put the screws on Putin to the extent we can. There's only so
Yeah,
much
right.
sanctions to do. And that helped move it. And now, what has Putin done? He flew to Alaska. He got a one on one with the president of the United States to elevate his status.
And a red
He
carpet.
made vague hints of possible concessions down the road. And meanwhile, he's bought himself more time.
Yeah,
There is
exactly.
no more deadline. And
Yeah.
that, me as by the way, he bombs the hell out of Ukraine,
Yes.
kills civilians,
Yes.
takes territory
Yes.
at an awful cost for his own soldiers, which he doesn't care about, and any Ukrainian soldiers potentially in the way. So it's I want to try to be optimistic. There are some reasons to be optimistic. It's nice that everybody got along on our side, on the Trump, Putin, Ukraine, NATO side. It's nice that Trump seems to have backed away from his anti-NATO stance, that Europe is picking things up, and Trump gets some credit for that, among others, and spending more for their defense and worried more about their defense and talking about security guarantees for Ukraine. So I don't want to say there is no progress because there is progress there. But I think it's been obvious. I think it continues to be obvious to get to the finish line, to really make something happen. It's going to only come with absolute maximum pressure on Putin. It's just not. I just don't think there's. We may not even get there with that. Like that may not be enough. Putin may just
Well,
say
that
the
would
hell
take a
with it.
long time.
Well, but you could put the sanctions in effect now, and
No, no,
you
you
could
could, but what I'm
continue
saying
to
is,
arm Ukraine and make it more and more painful for him.
I'm saying an
But
obvious thing, but sanctions don't have an immediate effect.
that's true. That's
Like
true.
they take time. I mean, you need to be almost isolated and have no other options. And Russia has shown over the years that some European countries still do business with them. China still does
Yeah.
business with them.
India.
India
India
does
does.
like so they're not isolated enough. I mean,
No,
not enough.
not
The
enough.
world doesn't agree enough for sanctions to really have a huge impact for an extended period of time.
And arming Ukraine and making sure. So it's not that I'm totally pessimistic. I try to give credit where credit is due, and I've said several things that I think Trump has done well finally and come around. Right? It's kind of like I said the other when we talked about this before. If somebody shows up 3 hours late to a party, you can either say, "Where the fuck have you been?" or "I'm really glad you're here now."
Right.
Yeah, so I want to focus on the "I'm really glad you're here now," and hopefully he can get us to the point we need to be, which is forcing Russia to do something. Like the fact that he essentially has come out, Trump, and said, "Yeah, I set up this meeting with Putin and Zelensky," and Putin and Russia are like, maybe." We'll see, right? Which is what they always do because they think time is on their side. Delay, 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 flatter, keep
Well,
it
time is on
going.
their side. They
Right. Well,
don't they don't have to think it. That's true.
I think it probably is true right now. I think there would be a time down the road if we helped you, if by we I mean the United States and Europe, continue to help Ukraine enough, and Ukraine's military was built up enough, which is starting to happen. That I think there could be a time where it would not be on their side, where that would reverse. But I think for now, he's blitzing to get as much territory as possible heading into
Well, that's
negotiations.
smart.
But you cannot expect Ukraine. to do two things, I think. You cannot expect them to not have an ironclad security guarantee, which has to be if we are attacked in any way, European troops on the ground with maybe United States air support will respond for us. Like I think there's no way Ukraine could or I think would ever agree to a deal short of that. And then the other thing too is Russia wants them to give up land that Russia doesn't even have right now. They want the entire what's called the Donbass region, and they have a good chunk of it, but not all of it. So you're
Right.
essentially asking Ukraine to surrender to you not only land that Russia currently occupied and stole from Ukraine, but additional land. And
Well,
I
it's
mean, come on,
complicated,
that's a
but if
big ask.
it is, well, it's complicated because I was going to say if you give that up, then it's only incentivizing a future
Right.
war, which is part of the problem in making that agreement.
Yes. And the other thing too is we should, I hope, I say we, the United States, Europe, should not in any way recognize that. So for instance, if I would be fine, and I think it would be a good result if Ukraine gave up for now the territory that Russia controls in Ukraine, had an ironclad security guarantee, and you kind of just froze the front line. That would be a good deal, I think, for Ukraine. I don't know if Putin
Yeah.
would agree to that. That would be a good deal.
I don't
But
know why he would, based on what we talked about in the
well,
first
he
10,
right.
15 minutes of this.
It'll take a lot to get him there, but if you got him there, that would be a pretty good result. But with the condition that no one recognizes that land as Russian. Obviously recognize the reality that right now Russia occupies it, but you don't give formal recognition that that is part of Russia. You
Right.
essentially leave it to the future where maybe a Ukraine 10, 15, 20 years from now, could take it back. All right, Brian, I want to turn to a local issue, and this is right up your alley because you live, as we mentioned, right outside DC. You spend a lot of time there. You were also a military policeman, so you have a lot of law enforcement. You have quite a law enforcement background. What do you make of the president on an emergency basis for 30 days and maybe longer, we'll see, taking over essentially policing in the district? So the federal government has taken over the DC police force. They have pushed in National Guard now from several states and FBI agents as well, patrolling the streets. They're arresting a bunch of people. They're demolishing homeless encampments. There's some protests that have sprung up against that. What do you make of the whole thing that's going on in DC right now in terms of this militarized federal police presence?
It's interesting because I've lived in this area since 1999, so going on 26 years, always around the DC area. I've never lived in DC. I worked in DC for many, many years. I actually worked at the old executive office, so I'm very familiar with Federal Triangle and all that goes on there. But it's amazing to me in my 26 years here how much DC has actually transformed into what I would call a livable city. I think in 1999, I don't know that I would have even considered or thought about living in Washington D.C., particularly on the southeast side off of South Capitol Street. I mean, there were just basically prostitutes on the street as soon as it got dark. There was drug dealing right out in the open. Obviously, homelessness was bad. There was a lot
Sounds
of
like a good time. I'm
well,
sorry.
no,
Where was the problem?
right. A lot of gang violence. I mean, that's where the problems stem from those illegal activities and the crime that occurred around them. It wouldn't have been a great place to have a family, or even if you didn't have a family, I wouldn't have considered DC a great place to live. If you go to that part of DC now, it is amazing. Like it is really nice. I mean, there are concert venues. Obviously, they built Nats Park down there. They put up commercial districts all around. They transformed the harbor on the Potomac, going as far out as PG County. And I know I'm getting pretty local with this stuff, so forgive me. But a lot of that type of crime and violence got pushed into PG County.
Prince George's County, right? Is that
Gorgeous
correct?
Prince George's County, as it's known. And basically, now you can go to DC any day of the week in any part of DC, and it's pretty nice. And you have to grade this stuff on a scale because you also have to remember I work in Baltimore a lot. Baltimore is Fallujah, man. There are stretches of Baltimore that are a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles long. There are just crack
Yeah.
dens that are completely
Baltimore, by the way,
unoccupied.
Baltimore, just side note here, Baltimore murder rate down 50% in the last 5 years.
Yeah, I'm
That's a
just saying
huge
though,
improvement. Yeah,
it
I'm not saying
is.
Baltimore's great. I'm not saying
No, but Baltimore has also
but,
improved. That's fair. I mean, there's been investment there,
well,
everything else. I
crime
know we're
is
not talking about Baltimore, but violent crime in general across the board, no matter where you're at, is pretty much down. Not
it's
everywhere.
down. Yeah, it's down big time, and it's especially down since it peaked in the COVID years when the world went crazy, like for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
COVID caused many bad externalities, including crime, and you had
I'll
the
land the plane by just saying this, which is I said all of that to basically say the idea that you would need the National Guard in DC or the federal government to take over the police department, not just because of the numbers, because any human being could go into Washington, D.C. any day of the week to almost any part of Washington, D.C. and know that it is not necessary. Is there crime there? Of course there is. Is there homelessness there? Of course there is. But what are we talking about? On what terms? I guess this just depends on how you view it. Every major city in every country in the world has elements of crime.
yeah. I think so. First of all, violent crime way down across the board in the last few years, with the caveat that crime statistics are not necessarily
They're
always
always manipulated.
accurate. They're manipulated and they
Everyone
take time.
manipulates
They
them.
take time to gather because not every department reports. So it takes a while to get this. And for that's one of the disputes in DC is there are multiple media reports that there is an official at the DC Police Department who has been suspended pending an investigation that they were manipulating the stats. And in fact,
They're always
the
manipulated in every city,
union
everywhere.
the police union chief said he believes that the stats were manipulated because the stats show a roughly just this year a 25% drop in violent crime in DC and violent crime in DC at a 30-year low. So lower than it has been in the last 3 decades. That's what the numbers show. Now,
Anecdotally, that is believable, though.
yeah, and right, and other people have said no,
And
that
murder
doesn't
is one thing that you can't really get around. Like you know what
that's
I'm
hard
saying?
to right.
Like murder is one of those things. It's hard to manipulate that stat.
Now there are carjackings, and look, I feel bad for Big Balls, the Doge employee who got beaten up when he was. Did you see this? This was one of the things that I think prompted this. Big Balls, that's what he goes by.
Yeah.
I don't even know his real name. I mean, I'm joking, but I do feel bad for the man. He was trying to help a woman getting carjacked, and he got apparently beaten up pretty badly. And I think so the crime numbers are down. Maybe they're manipulated a little bit. Maybe they're not as down as quite as much as people say. So was this quote unquote necessary?
No.
No. However, I also don't think it's a huge deal in the short term, and I'll tell you why.
This is
My problems with Trump, my main problems, I have a lot of problems, are when he violates law or stretches the law to in a way that it isn't meant to be
I
stretched.
think that's being done here.
I don't think so. And I'll tell you
Really.
why. Because DC, as we know, is a special case. It is the District of Columbia. It is a federal district. In fact, up until fairly recently, the federal government controlled DC. And the federal government gave DC about 40 years ago powers, a city council, a mayor, and allowed them to be mostly autonomous. But they kept the power to step in. And so the president has a power. I think it's pretty clear for this 30 days to do this. Now, again, that's different. That's a different question than should he do it, right? There's always two questions. Should they do it? Is it legal to do it? Should they? I'd say probably not. Is it legal? I think almost certainly. Now, if he tries to go beyond 30 days, he needs congressional approval. And if he were to try to do this without congressional approval, then I think we have a major problem. So look, if at the end of the day, I think they arrested 50 people overnight last night. They're cleaning up some homeless
It's a big
encampments.
city.
Right.
50 people, that's not even that many.
Right. But I'm saying if we come out of this where a few bad hombres are arrested.
Oh God. Dude, you live in LA. Like
No,
50 people getting arrested?
I know.
That's like Tuesday.
My point is, if we come out of this in 30 days, we're back to normal. In the meantime, some people have been arrested and some homeless encampments have been cleared. It's not that big of a deal to me. What I am concerned about is the precedent this may set for other areas that are not federal districts. Because it's one thing, again, to send the National Guard or the FBI into an area where the federal government constitutionally has power.
I promise you, just real quick, the DC police do not want the National Guard there, not because of like any other reason, then they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like that's
Right.
the
They're not
scariest
law
part about
enforcement.
this. You're
They're not
adding
law
people
enforcement.
into a situation that have no real life experience dealing with like emotionally disturbed people.
Right.
Like there's no
Well,
National Guard training for that. In the
and
National Guard, if someone is emotionally disturbed, you shoot them. That's not what you do in law enforcement.
yeah, and I will say that from what they say, and I think it's because out here in LA, obviously you have the guard.
Yeah.
Mainly, they were just there as a show of force to
Yeah, yeah.
protect property.
Yeah.
They weren't. If they did detain
They're
someone,
Kyle Rittenhouse
they
like.
they were temporary. Well, let's hope not. They were temporarily detaining. If they did any detaining at all, they weren't like putting people under arrest. They were
They
just like
shouldn't.
stay here until the cops come. Right? Yeah,
Yes,
by
please
law they should
God.
not. So my point is, what would concern me is if you have the president willy nilly sending National Guard into other cities. And there's a lawsuit out here because of what he did in LA, and
Yeah.
it's working its way through the courts about whether he can even do that, whether that's even legal or not, because of what you were talking about. The National Guard and the military is not supposed to do any kind of civilian law enforcement.
No.
That's
Posse
kind of a thing.
comitalis.
Right, that's kind of a thing in the United States. So if it's just DC because it's a unique situation as a federal district, not a state under the control of the federal government, that's one thing. If it spreads to more, then I think or if he tries to expand his authority outside the 30 days, that's when I'm going to have a major problem.
Well, no one wants to
with it.
live or work in a police state. Like
Yes.
I don't like. Yes, obviously people don't want or like crime. That's not profound. But what I'm saying is they would prefer, big balls getting his ass beat to having the National Guard on every corner. Like they're fine with that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it depends on their political persuasion, to be honest with you. I think people
Really,
who
I
like
did not
Trump.
know that crime was a political
I mean,
issue.
look, the DC police, at least to the extent they're, or now I will say this, you have to be careful with police because the people who speak for, I learned this when I was in St. Louis, the people who speak for police
Yeah.
tend to be the most, they tend to, they're the police union president,
Oh, yeah.
what I'm talking about usually, tends to be among the most extreme elements
That's
of their
very
ranks.
true.
And so you can't that the police union chief does not necessarily represent the rank and file, but to the extent they do, they support this. They welcomed it. So again, that does not speak for every
Yeah,
officer,
dude,
but the leadership
I'm,
is
I'm not
wants
going to
it.
get into sources, but like, I mean, I have more than my hands of friends that are in the DC Police Department
Who don't like this.
who do not like this.
Yeah. It's just a bad look because these kinds of things should be reserved for only incredibly unique circumstances. And the fact that we've seen it now in DC and then you saw it out here in LA, when we did have a legitimate situation, I mean, it wasn't like the summer of 2020, but we had a couple of days that were pretty touch and go. But the governor didn't want it and he was overridden. And that's why it's in court right now, because that traditionally does not happen, or at least it hadn't happened since the civil rights movement. Real quick, what do you make about, we talked about this a little bit, the redistricting push where California now is responding. California is going to, where I live here, is going to put a measure on the ballot in November that would essentially, the result would be redrawn congressional districts for 2026 that would likely net Democrats 4 or 5 seats. Texas is going to go forward with their plan that would net Republicans 4 or 5 seats. So Gavin Newsom has made a name for himself. Clearly, he wants to run for president in 2028 by really going after this aggressively.
Yeah, that's the best part of this entire thing. Redistricting, bit of a snoozer. Gavin Newsom on X, a fire man.
Yeah.
Like I love this so much because it's the first time that Democrats, and for the longtime listeners of the show, everyone knows I'm a registered Democrat. Like we're finally fighting fire with fire. Like we've had enough. We
That's
tried
the
to
line
do
he
this
uses.
in a dignified, respectable way, and that failed. And now we're just gonna troll like the master himself, President Troll. Dude, this is so great for Gavin Newsom.
It
in so
is.
many ways. It's great for his political profile. It's great for Democrats in general. Did you see the one So You Like Him Young, where he was like the guy that did the Super Bowl and it had Gavin Newsom's face and he was doing a
No.
rap about
Did
Trump liking him young?
did this come from the governor's press office on
Yes,
X?
this just
Yes.
came out today.
They are tweeting, they are
Fire.
sending posts in the style of Trump with the all caps.
Love
They
it.
are going after it, and it is really effective. And you
What's
can tell
entertaining?
it is so funny. It's gotten under conservative skin, and they hit a nerve.
Do the
And
Tommy Lahren one.
oh yeah, the Tommy Lahren. So there was I don't have it in front of me, but the context
Yeah,
was
it's
the
fine.
governor's press
You'll be
office
okay.
account was calling out a conservative, a gay conservative male, and said, "Is this Nancy Mace, the female congresswoman from South Carolina?" And Tommy Lahren, who's a conservative influencer, was basically saying, "This is outrageous. You shouldn't say this." And it's homophobic. She didn't say it was homophobic, but that was her point. And the governor's press account responded, "This sounds pretty woke to me." And I'm just like, this is so
That's
smart.
great.
Another one they did is they posted an AI image of Newsom with with Tucker Carlson's hand on his shoulder and Hulk Hogan with a halo behind him with his hand on his shoulder, like praying over him. And somebody said, "This is essentially, I'm paraphrasing, this is sacrilegious." And they responded and wrote, "Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to post this one." And it was the Trump image where Trump posted himself as the Pope. Do you remember
Yes.
that? And I'm just thinking, so
Yes.
look, and I will say this, Newsom's speech the other day when he announced the redistricting plan was fire. I mean, that was the speech where you may have heard clips of it. He said, "We need to wake up. We need to wake up." As you said, the fight fire with fire line. Gavin Newsom, to me, my take on him was always incredible political ability on the one side, but incredible baggage on the other because he has been attacked so much as the governor of California, some of it rightfully so, the problems out here with homelessness and in particular the high cost of living. And there was just so much baggage. I thought I didn't discount him by any means, again, because of the raw political skill, but I thought it's just going to be tough because of the baggage.
Dude, we are so
But
dumb that this is all that matters. We are so close to idiocracy, my friend. We're not there yet. I want to be clear. But we are closer to idiocracy than we have ever been. And in politics, it doesn't matter what baggage you have, it doesn't matter what policies you make, it doesn't matter what you do. If you are entertaining and you are telling people things that they want to hear, you can win an election. And
yeah,
that is the thing that Trump has taught us. And I'm happy we're finally listening. Because the
yeah.
thing is, you have to win to make policies. You have to win elections to affect real change. And the Republicans have known that our entire lives. For a Democrat to finally have this lightning bolt hit them on the head to realize that that's what they need to do is to win, I love it.
I always thought Newsom. My thought was the baggage is a little too much. It overtakes the talent. But I'm leaning towards more what you were saying is there's just something about the kind of the in the room test. What does the candidate, the guy or girl, do when they go into a room? Can they electrify a crowd? One way or another. There are different ways to do that. Barack
Sure, of course
Obama
there
did it
are. Yeah, Barack
differently
Obama did a
than,
great job.
but he did it in a different way than Donald Trump. But
No, but he was dignified,
they
and that's
both
not going
did
to
it.
work.
No, but I'm saying Obama and Trump both did it.
No,
They
they did.
both were able to do it, obviously in very different ways to very different constituents. And Newsom has that ability, and it also the way that they have played that he's played this on social media, the way that he understands new media. He's been on podcast after podcast, sitting
Yeah.
down for long form interviews, something Joe Biden certainly didn't do, and
Oh, he
neither really
couldn't.
did Kamala Harris. Yeah. Newsom has his own podcast where he's talked to conservatives. He's gotten a lot of flack for that. He had Steve Bannon on. And what I really like is someone who is kind of a center person, center left. He stood up to the special interests out here this year on the left and signed into law the most important housing reform we have seen in California in a very long time, essentially bypassing and minimizing environmental reviews to get shit built, which is what we needed to do. That again, that is the number one problem, I think, for Newsom is the high cost of living in California, particularly with housing. And one of the big reasons for that was we had ridiculously strict, crazy environmental laws out here and zoning laws that made it so damn difficult to build. And the special interests wanted those to stay. And he stood up to those, even the special interests in his own party, environmental groups, in some cases, labor unions, and he fought them and he won. And that showed me, like, okay, this guy is not just, I'm going to throw red meat at the left because people can do that and that can work for you in
Yeah.
a primary. But he showed me he's more than that. He actually does have the ability to solve problems. And look, I know the knock on him. Again, I want to be clear. I understand the baggage of California. I understand he comes off sometimes as this slick guy. He's a
Yeah.
handsome guy with the hair and and
Well,
and
that
the and
helps.
the way of speaking that I think occasionally can sound elitist. And so I get the
I
knocks
like
on
that
him.
too, though.
Well, you love the slick back hair and the good looks. So
No,
I
I think it's good for you politically. I just did want to say real quick, if you're having
yes.
Steve Bannon on your podcast, that's amazing because you can say whatever you want about Steve Bannon, not a moron.
No.
Pretty smart guy
And
who,
look,
yeah.
I would say I want people who will do that. I'm
No, but
not
that's what I'm saying. To have him on your podcast and
right.
actually have it be like, being able to stand up to it. Like that was the thing about our boy Marco Rubio, who you and I are both like, thank God he's around. If you remember during the primaries, like he got made fun of because all he could do was parrot things that he like learned from
Oh,
flashcards because he had no personality. But anyway, you get my point. I think it takes I don't know. I think Newsom has definitely positioned himself, at least for the moment, and it is super early, but it's not that early
no.
to look
Two
ahead.
years.
Yeah, it's a short amount of time. It's not long. So
We're
he's definitely put himself out there and made a statement that he's coming.
He is. And look, I think at the moment he's the favorite. Now, again, it's early. Like he's ahead in the public in a lot of the
Any
polls I've seen
Democrat's
recently.
going to be a favorite after Trump leaves
No, I'm
because,
saying in the primary.
oh, in the primary. Okay, I got you. I was going to say presidential. I mean, I think Democrats would be huge favorites, you would suspect. I mean, again, I know it's
We'll
3 years
see.
away, but. You know,
It's funny you say that. I saw some polling yesterday. I just saw some polling today. I don't even remember the source. I feel bad not giving them credit. It was Vance versus Newsom.
mhm.
Newsom +4. Vance versus Buttigieg. Buttigieg +2. Like we're in a period of close elections.
We are not. I love Pete. I do. I think he would actually be a great president, but we're not going to have a gay man as president, Eric. Again, idiocracy. It's not going to happen, buddy.
I think that's probably likely. I mean, it might happen someday. I don't think it's going to happen in
No, I'm
2028.
talking about 2028.
Yeah. Well, the problem with Buttigieg, who again I share your enthusiasm for his abilities.
Oh, he's
I
great.
mean, he
He's awesome.
has that Newsom
He
level of
does.
talent, of political talent. But here's what's going to kill him. And you mentioned let's just the elephant in the room. But what is that? Why does that specifically matter? Black voters, 0%. I've seen two polls now where among black Democratic primary voters, he
Mhm.
is at 0.0%, not 1%, not 2%, zero.
Yeah.
You cannot win the Democratic nomination unless you do at least competitively well with African Americans because they make up such a disproportionate share of the Democratic electorate.
Yeah.
They're only 13% of the national population, but they are a much higher percentage of the Democratic primary electorate. I mean, that's what saved Joe Biden. Joe Biden would not have won the nomination if it weren't for the African American vote in South Carolina. So I agree with you. I can't see it for
No,
Buttigieg unless something changes in the next 2 years in terms of how he can appeal to black voters. And let's
it
be
won't.
honest,
Because
right,
no,
because his sexual
a sneak
orientation isn't going to
preview of
change.
my final thoughts. That's kind of what I'm going to talk about.
It's
Just
locked in.
no, it's just it's one of those things, man, where we want to believe we are so evolved or we're so far ahead of where, we were 50 years ago. I mean, the data just doesn't bear that out. It just doesn't. I mean, there are certainly much more influences that make us
Yeah.
progressive, but as a nation, I think it's fairly clear that we are not, we
Hmm.
are still repressed
I
sexually.
disagree with you because here's why I disagree with you. Buttigieg is polling right now at 15% in a hypothetical Democratic primary among all Democratic voters, right? He probably will do even better than that. An openly gay man would never be
No.
polling at 15%. I mean, he
Oh,
remember
okay. I see what you're
he
saying. No,
won
no, 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 no,
Iowa.
no, no.
He won
So
Iowa in
don't
2020.
misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying we haven't made progress. We certainly, whether it's anecdotally or what you just did, data driven, we have made some progress in these areas, but we are not there yet.
We're not there. I agree with you, and I agree with you. And so I just like I agree. Like Newsom to me in the last few weeks has changed my mind. Not that I ever counted him out because I always knew he had that in the room charisma that I've talked about going. Like I could see him on the campaign trail in Iowa, New Hampshire. Although I guess Iowa, New Hampshire probably won't be the early states anymore. But whatever the early states end up being, South Carolina, Nevada, whatever they are, I could see him in those rooms just wowing people
Oh yeah.
and the energy, like the way his speech the other day, and he has stepped into this moment and really done a lot of good for himself, I think, in the last few weeks for sure. Absolutely. Man, that Rubio, you brought up that Rubio thing. It was 2016. It
You
was
remember this.
the oh my God, dude. Not only do I remember it, you talk about the great sliding door moments in modern political history. You know that isn't that a
Yeah.
movie with Gwyneth Paltrow? Is it Gwyneth Paltrow movie? For people who don't know the slide, there's a movie with Gwyneth Paltrow from the 90s. I think it's called Sliding Doors. And essentially the premise of the movie is one life she lives because she didn't get into a subway, and then you see what her life would be like if she did, right?
No, I've
So
never seen this film, but now I want to.
yeah, go check it out. So it's pretty good from what I remember. It's been a minute. I think it's called Sliding Doors. But anyway, the theory is it's just like in life, it's like one tiny thing, right? Or one medium-sized thing, how it could change history. So I want to set the scene for you. 2016, Iowa was the first state caucus. It was an indecisive result. I think Ted Cruz actually won. I could be wrong. I think Ted Cruz won. Trump did okay. He was close. Rubio did pretty well. A week later was New Hampshire. Rubio had the momentum. He was doing surging in the polls. Looked like he could win New Hampshire, which would have been a game changer. And then they had a debate a few days before the primary. And Chris Christie, who
Yeah,
had no chance to win the nomination, would drop out soon later, just
he
eviscerated
did.
Rubio at that debate. Eviscerated for the thing you talked about, parroting lines. And what happened? A few days, Rubio went like this. Trump wins New Hampshire. The rest is history.
All because
But
of freaking Chris Christie.
Chris Christie,
You
man,
mother effer.
who I like. I
I
like
like
Chris
Chris
Christie.
Christie
I
too.
like him.
But he
Smart
should have just
guy.
left Marco alone.
He had no chance. He had no chance to win, and he kneecapped the guy who actually could have won and didn't kneecap Donald Trump. And here we are. Here we are, all these years
That's a
later.
great scene that only a very small percentage. I remember that like it was
Oh,
yesterday.
I remember it well. I remember it so well because and maybe there's always the chance I'm misremembering
You're not.
exact the details
Roger
because
Clemens misremembered using steroids. You
he
didn't
did.
misremember this.
No, it was McGuire, wasn't it? I think it was Mark
No,
McGuire.
no, no. Clemens was the one who misremembered.
Oh,
It wasn't
misremembered. He's
McGuire.
right. I
Just because
misremembered.
that's not a word that you hear very
I
often.
don't even know if it is a word,
Well,
but
Roger Clemens made it a word. So there you go.
but I remember because like Rubio had the momentum. He had kind of the wink wink backing of the establishment, and Cruz and Trump were in the same lane. Like they were fighting for the same voters. If you remember that primary, again, another thing that was weird, they didn't attack each other. Trump attacked everybody else and he waited on Cruz. And the reason obviously was he knew he was competing for those same group of voters. And finally he went after Cruz and eviscerated and made fun of his wife and called his wife ugly and said his dad may have helped assassinate Kennedy. So he eventually went after Cruz, but not at first. And that Rubio had that opening and I don't know if Rubio would have been a great president, maybe not,
Maybe not.
but I know that he could have won that nomination, and the fact that he didn't changed history. All right, Brian, let's get into the sports news. I got to be honest, this is a dead period for me. I just cannot get into preseason football. I just can't
Even
do
even
it.
Shador Sanders?
Even Shador Sanders.
Hmm.
Have you watched a minute of preseason football? Because I have not. I have not watched
No, I
1 minute.
haven't watched a minute of preseason football, but I do peruse the sports section as I did as a young man, and I'd say the story from the last couple of weeks was his outstanding performance against the Carolina Panthers in the preseason game for all the reasons that you would think. I mean, he went from potentially being the number one overall pick to a fifth rounder. I think Shador Sanders, much like Bronny James, is a bit of a lightning rod because, he's a Nepo baby. And as much as one can, given both Bronny James and Shador Sanders' outstanding athletic ability, be that as it may, but you get what I'm saying is like because of their fathers, because of their names, I think there are people that already love or hate them just based on that, not really for what they've done on the field or on the court. So, but Shador coming out and playing really well, I mean, I thought that was at least from the last couple of weeks a cool story. He didn't. I mean, dude, there are so many NFL rookies who come into preseason games and completely just crap the bed. And he looked competent. So I just thought that was a good sign. I mean, the Cleveland Brown quarterback story is one of the most interesting stories of the NFL season. I mean, the Browns are going to be good. They're not going to make any noise, but
No,
that specific situation being that they have like a massage therapist, sexual assaulter getting paid 30
alleged.
million no, I think he is it alleged
I
still
don't think he was ever.
if you're paying money in court?
Yeah, I think it is because alleged refers to
Ah,
criminal.
criminal,
Yeah,
just criminal.
so
Okay,
he alleged.
I will accept that correction. But you got 150-year-old Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, the guy from Oregon, I don't even know his name. And
Dylan,
yeah,
is it
Dylan, something.
Dylan Gabriel? Is
Yeah,
that right?
but you don't find any of this like interesting from an NFL perspective?
I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, I find it a 2 level of interesting. I would say it's not completely uninteresting, but not much. What I will care about is the regular season for the Browns quarterback situation. Again, as we're talking about a team that's going to go 4-13 most likely.
Probably.
So there's only so
It's
much
still always
upside.
weird to me to
But it
say
is,
4-13 instead of 4-12.
I hate it. I hate it. I want to
Yeah,
go.
but you're right.
I hate it's not 16 and I hate it's an odd number. They're going to go to 18. You know that for the next TV deal, they're going to go to 18. So that'll at least be an even number. Okay. Week. So week 1, it'll probably be Flacco, right? I mean, as a starter.
Who knows?
Okay. I want you to predict for me week 8 of this NFL season who will be the Browns starting
I
quarterback.
think it's going to be Shador Sanders.
You do. See, that's what I like because that is a bold pick because I don't think most people would say that right now.
Really, well, they're not going to be good. So Flacco makes no sense. Kenny Pickett has small hands. So you got to see what you got. And,
Yes. And you got 2 guys, and and Watson won't be back by then, most likely, because he's
no, he's
recovering from an
done.
Achilles. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he'll ever take another snap for the
I don't
Browns.
think
I
he
could be
will
wrong.
either. That's the worst signing in any sports in history. That's a bold take, but it has to be up there.
Well, yeah, I think you're right because it was guaranteed money.
Yeah, it's
It was
guaranteed money.
200 and was it
50, it's
50
230,
million?
230 million, I think.
That's crazy. And they're still on the hook for like 100 million plus of
It's
that over the
bad.
next few
It's really
years.
bad. I think it's the worst contract in sports history.
So I stand corrected. He may take another snap for the Browns because cutting him would essentially, I think, be a dead money hit that they won't want to absorb. I think they'd have to pay 50 million plus in dead money to not have him on the roster. And I don't know if they'll do that. Maybe they will, but that would be a huge dead money hit.
What I wanted to ask you just about this is, do
Yes.
you still enjoy the actual games more than you enjoy the off the field drama? Because ESPN in particular, and I know they always get picked out because they're the biggest and the best, has really
Mhm.
shifted away from when we were kids, like just covering the sport and the game of sport, to
Yeah,
more of what you
personalities.
and I are talking about right now, which is kind of the off the field kind of stuff. And I only brought it up because in terms of actual games, there isn't very much going on. I mean, Lord knows we're not going to talk about MLB playoff races because no one cares about that.
No.
But I think the culture has
Maybe next
shifted to
week.
where these things are more interesting.
Yeah, and then part of it too is the boom in content, and you have to fill content, and the NFL is king, and so you have to fill it with NFL content.
Yeah.
I care about it a little bit. To be honest with you, at this point in my life, I'm much more interested in the game. So
In the
I still
games.
follow this stuff a little bit, but wake me up when the games start.
You
When the
know who
regular
does a great
even for my by the way, that's even for my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers, who are the only really sports team I really care about.
Yeah.
Even for the Steelers, I have not watched a minute of preseason, and I won't. And but week one, 2 weeks
You're
against the
locked in.
Jets, I will be there. I will be there. All right, Brian. I know you were traveling, but have you seen any movies or TV shows lately you'd like to review for us on the program today?
You're hilarious. I'm watching Talking Sopranos right now in the
Oh
car.
my
So
God, dude.
it's only my second watch through of Talking Sopranos. I finished my fifth watch
Uh,
through of the show. And I got to tell you, the fifth time through is better.
and for those who don't know, Talking Sopranos is like what a podcast
Yes, it's
about
Steve
the.
Sciarippa and Michael Imperioli, excuse me, who go through each episode of the show, like scene by scene, and they do interviews.
All
And if
right.
you're a fan of the show, as I clearly am, I have a bit of a problem.
Yes, a super fan.
Then you would love Talking Sopranos. So that's the long answer to like, has anything come out? I mean, I saw Fantastic Four. We talked about that.
Yes.
What
Has
have you been watching?
As we turn our attentions to the fall, Brian, you have got to we've got our interview our review segment's going to die. So I will give one review this week. First, I'll tell you what I'm watching. I review in upcoming episodes, and if you want to watch it, please
Well,
do.
I might have to. So
Number
go
one
ahead.
is it's only a three-part documentary on Netflix on the Biggest Loser TV show on NBC. Remember that?
I might
Which
like
was
that.
a fascinating show, and the documentary is so good.
I might like that.
When I finish that, I'll talk about it. The other thing I'm watching is, and this is a show I've wanted to watch for a long time on HBO Max. They have a show called The Rehearsal,
Mhm.
which is the strangest, most interesting show I have ever seen in my life. It is
Wow.
completely different than
We
anything.
use a lot of hyperbole on the show, but I do want to mention to people listening, Eric does not use hyperbole when speaking in entertainment.
That's right. It
He's
is.
very practical and straightforward with this.
I try to be. I
That
try
is
to be.
high praise then.
Well, and I'm not saying it's the best, but I'm
No, I
saying
know, but I'm just saying.
it's the most interesting, bizarre, crazy show you have ever seen. It's so creative and unique and different that it is worth checking out just for that. And I also think it's the quality's pretty good too. In fact, it's nominated for a bunch of Emmys. It's thought provoking. It's funny and interesting, and I check it out because I don't want to spoil it and tell you what it's about, but watch season two. I want to be clear, full disclosure, I never saw season one. I started with season two, which is only 6 episodes. I'm almost done. All right, here's my review this week. I don't know if you want to watch this one. In fact, I know you probably will not, although your wife might want to watch it. It's called The Hunting Wives on Netflix. Are you familiar with The
I'm not, but I
Hunting
can't wait to
Wives?
hear about it.
So let me give you the premise of this ridiculous show. A liberal woman from the Northeast who had a traumatic incident in her past, moves with her husband to Texas and gets in with these conservative women who like to hunt and they're basically housewives. And really, that is not really what the show is about. It's just kind of the setup. The show is about it's a soap opera, a crazy soap opera. There is a ton of lesbianism, like an outrageous amount of lesbianism. So I hung around, and even though the show, I want to be clear, is not
They
good.
knew how to hook you in.
The show is not good at all. It's a 4 out of 10. But the thing I like,
You watched the entire thing.
I watched all eight
Of
episodes.
course you did.
I hung in. There's a lot of lesbianism. That's one of the pluses of the show. There aren't a lot of other pluses except for this. They they embrace the craziness of the show.
Hmm.
It's a ridiculous show, and it's as I said, it's essentially a sexed up R-rated version of a soap opera. And my wife's like, watch this show, and I said, this is ridiculous, but Again, the lesbianism. I'll stick around. And there's a lot of nudity in the show. There's a lot of weird things that happen. I will warn you, there is a pegging scene in the show. Now it's under the covers. So, but there is, it's completely out of nowhere. Like you're like, they don't set it up. They just go right to the scene and you're like, oh, is it? Oh, okay. So I think that's a first. I don't know if again, it's not a good show. I'm just going to lay it out there. It could have been. I want to be clear. There are some nuggets in there of again, like experiencing the cultural divide of like a liberal woman, anti-gun woman from the Northeast moving down this conservative political culture, unhappy housewives, secrets, people who maybe are pretending to be someone they're not. Like there was a good show there. It just didn't happen. Instead, they decided to take another route. Like they could have done a fairly serious show exploring those topics, and they were like, "No, we're just going to go with the lesbianism." I'm not saying they made the wrong choice, but it was a choice. So the Hunting Wives, a 4 out of 10. I think you should watch it with your wife.
I won't be seeing that.
I didn't sell you.
No, I mean, dude, in all seriousness, we have Peacemaker season 2 coming up. House of the Dragon season 3
Okay.
is going to be coming up. I mean, the slate gets full very quickly once it gets cold.
And the
I know where
excessive
you are, it never gets cold, but where I'm at, cold
yes.
weather comes and then better TV usually follows.
Okay, so the excessive lesbianism it wasn't enough to
No,
hook
I
you.
mean, the way to your heart is clearly girl on girl sex. The way to my heart is usually food. I think that's why I watch The Sopranos so much, is at its core, that show is about food.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think there's much food in the Hunting Wives,
No, it doesn't appear.
although they're doing some eating. I think that
Oh, stop. It's too much.
I'm
You
sorry.
always take it a little too far.
I'm
That's what
sorry.
I've always loved about you, though, is like you see a line and you just go right over it.
You could. You set me up.
Yeah, well,
You
that's what
set
I
me right up.
do.
All right. So yeah, we'll have more things to come for reviews, I think, in the future. I feel good about that. I feel good about that. More because you're going to actually start watching things other than The Sopranos and shows about The Sopranos.
That's right.
So, all right. And check out if you get a chance, like check out the documentary on The Biggest Loser, which is good, but really check out season 2 of The Rehearsal because I want to see what you think of it. I'm not going to give anything away
All right.
other than it's completely different than anything you've ever seen.
Okay.
I feel definitely confident in saying that. All right, that's it for the show this week. Final thoughts, Brian. Do you have any
Oh
final
my God,
thoughts?
thank you. Well,
Do you
I
want to
know,
impart
Eric,
some
there's a
wisdom?
hard network out that we have to
You
hit.
have 2 minutes
Right. So I
max.
have exactly 2 minutes. All right. So I had two topics. The first
Oh my
one
god.
I'm going to skip over very quickly. Also in the Washington, D.C. area in Loudoun County, three boys in high school were suspended for 10 days because they questioned why a biological female was in their locker room. And when I say question, they didn't harass the person, they didn't say anything derogatory to this person. They simply asked them the question of, like, hey, why are you in here? And one of the boys who was suspended, all the boys said was, this makes me feel really uncomfortable. Um, so I don't think the entire getting rid of woke has completely gone away as much as people's
That is
trying.
absolutely. I hope they're suing. That is ludicrous.
Everyone's suing everybody. That's why I
Good.
brought it up as a story. Because we're never going to get away from genitals in bathrooms. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I'm just a 46-year-old man who doesn't really care. I mean, if someone with a vagina wants to watch me take a shit, God bless them. I don't know why they would. It's a horrifying experience whether you have a penis or a vagina.
It's quite a visual. Wow, the
Right.
show's gone down a dark road in the
It
last
has.
10 minutes.
But the main story that I really wanted to talk about, it goes back to the NFL. Have you seen the male Vikings cheerleader?
Yes, but just a very tiny clip. I don't know much about the story.
Here's the thing. I'm not going to give an opinion one way or the other to say, watch it because he is awesome. Dude, he is
Wow,
like,
this is a bold take. You
no,
support? You're anti-lesbianism and you support male cheerleaders. This is interesting.
Well, so support. That's interesting. Because I really thought about this. Do I, Brian Johnson, want male cheerleaders? I don't think I need them. Not really. Not doing what female cheerleaders do. I think if they're the ones holding, you know how they hold them up?
Yes.
That
But
I'm fine with.
does it offend you to your core like it seems to offend some people on
Well, this
social
is
media
why
if
I'm
there's a
bringing
male
it up.
cheerleader?
Is I thought initially when I watched this, I was going to be put off by it. But I'm telling you, that man danced his ass off and was clearly having the time of his life. And this is where I went, you know what? Great. Like, good for you, dude.
Look at
Like
you.
it's not like he's out there just getting a paycheck. You can tell that this person genuinely enjoys the thing that they were doing. And
Right.
how you can't watch that as a human being and just go, you know what, man? That's cool. Because I danced at my wedding, and that's the list of times I have danced in my life. I'm just saying, like, I really genuinely, not a bit, not saying a thing. The thing I got out of it when I watched it was like, good for this guy, man. He's having fun.
Yeah. That isn't that we're all trying to do, Brian. Is have some fun. We had some fun
I went a
today.
minute over.
That's okay. We'll allow it. Thank you all for listening, watching. Check us out. Like and subscribe the YouTube channel, the Everybody Settle Down YouTube channel where we are on. We're going to try to now do the show most weeks here for the rest of the year. Get in a good rhythm here. Thank you so much for being with us. For Brian Johnson, I'm Eric Messersmith. We hope you enjoyed the show, but if not, please take no offense.